Alright guys, what's up? Today we're talking breakfast. Do you need to have breakfast? Why are you feeding your children the food you're eating? You're feeding them for breakfast. Both fathers, both got kids, both try to lead by example, set your kids up for success. But it's tricky, right? It's very hard.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like the hardest bit is if all the other kids are being fed cereals and they're talking about this and what's your favorite cereal, and you don't allow your child to have that.
Yeah.
It kind of makes you look at the bad person, right? And I know personally, like my mom would be strict on what I could and couldn't have. And she did the best with the knowledge that she had.
Right.
But it still sucks because I saw my friends having all this delicious, yummy cereal. And I love cereal. Like I'm sure you do too, right?
Exactly. I think,
we love it still.
I think everyone, at least this country, at least country-wise, we all love cereal. We all ate cereal as kids. And our kids are eating what we ate, if not more. And it's just it's something that we love doing. We think it's encouraged. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% marketing.
And
that is
we just glued.
Such a marketing scam. It's insane.
It's insanely smart, but not the case when it comes
I was told it my entire life, like from my parents, from TV, from everything around, because that's what everyone else is told. So therefore, you think it's fact, you think it's true.
Yeah, you have to have breakfast. It's healthy. It's the most important. If it's the most important, why am I?
Yeah, why would you question like what the media tells you, right? And I don't think. What's the last time you had breakfast?
In fact, I think about it, it's been a while. Yeah,
I mean, probably 6 years for me since I've had breakfast.
Yeah, I'd say I've always eaten 1 o'clock or later, and it's been years. It's probably been about like maybe 6 months. We'll say. Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, eating breakfast, right? That was just a one-off or something, wasn't it?
It's not very often. I don't really do the breakfast thing.
Yeah, and has it made any difference to my life? Yeah, it has, because I actually feel better. I function better by not having breakfast, and it makes my life a hell of a lot simpler.
Are you hungry when you wake up? Would you say you're
no, I'm not. Dude, I'm not hungry at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon these days.
I would actually, all the time I say,
I don't know what hungry is anymore.
Yeah, because you and I fast, we know that. But everyday people, I say, when you wake in the morning, are you hungry? Is it just repetitive? You mentally eat breakfast, or is it something?
Is it a habit?
Yeah, is it a habit, or are you actually hungry in the morning? A lot of people are like, you know what? I'm not hungry usually till lunch. I'm like, well, why do you eat?
Because society expects you to eat.
It's like I never thought about that. I was like, well, maybe have your coffee if you can, have it with some fat, or maybe sugar free, and then be on your way. And then when you're hungry, have food from there.
You know what comes to mind is like someone sits down for dinner and they start putting salt on the food,
right?
But it's automatic. I'm like, do you want it? Do you need it? Have you tried it without it? But they just automatically do it because it's a bad habit.
It's a habit.
And I feel like there's a lot of those things that we do. I feel like a coffee would be another example. Right. You have your coffee in the morning, you put your creamer in it, or you put your sugar in it, or you have your cup of tea, you put your sugar in it. Do you actually need that? Like, could you half it? Could you find an alternative, a better alternative?
Yeah, that quote, don't bother me until I had my coffee. I'm not a coffee guy at all. I've never had coffee before in my life. I've never gotten a coffee. I just get up and go. I might have some tea, but it's not because I need it. It's just because I tried it. So people always say, oh, I'm having a bad day. I didn't have my coffee yet. Or I need my coffee. I was like, do you really need your coffee? Or is it a habit? You're just used to having your coffee.
And I mean, if you got that much pressure on needing a stimulant, that can't be a good thing either.
Bring it up, bring it back down. Yeah.
So before we started this video, I had a question for Cordell. I'm like, what is the difference between cereal in the morning for a kid and candy?
Yeah.
Is there any difference?
Well, one you're pouring milk into, and one you're actually just eating out of the packet. They're both sugar filled. Processed foods. But to be completely honest, if you break either one down, it's sugar, isn't it? I think if you read the back of a label to an individual, an adult, they would think they're both sugar. They're both candy. Sorry, they think they're both a snack.
That's a good point. If you didn't actually know the product and you just saw the label.
Yeah. What are those things called? Pepper fruities. That fried cereal, rice. It's corn syrup, corn sugar, dyes, process this, process that, and you look at the back of like a Snickers
Skittles
bar, or Skittles. They're very similar. And even if you break down the macro, the protein, the fats, the carbs, it's going to be equal to the actual candy bar. So you can actually fool someone and think that they're both candy bars, and you say, no, this is cereal, this is candy, and they would just mind be blown. We're not talking about Cheerios. No one really does Cheerios.
The Cheerios good for you or not?
I would say still processed still.
I haven't looked at, I've done eat them.
Compared to like what I just said, that Fruity Pebble cereal, but Cheerios, they make an effort, but they're still processed still because mass produced and this and that, but it's on the plain side for kids. So kids are going to say, I want Cheerios, mom, dad. They look at the cereal box with those characters whose eyes are pointing down at the kid, and they're going to want that cereal, the Sugar Smacks and the Frosted Flakes and the Rice Krispies. And
there's a cereal in Australia called Nutri-Grain, and it's Iron Man food.
Oh.
So it's like, the swimmers, the runners, the Iron Man.
Yeah.
So that was the marketing thing. So it was Iron Man food.
Interesting.
And it's funny because my mom was so strict on so many things, but she allowed me to have Nutri-Grain.
Because of
it's more sugar than it was in our Cocoa Pops, which is your Cocoa Pebbles.
No way.
So I actually had more sugar in it.
Oh, boy.
But the marketing made it seem healthy.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. She didn't know.
Yeah.
She thought she was on the right thing.
See,
I thought I was doing the right thing.
Yeah, you would assume Iron Man.
Because it was Iron Man food.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
yeah, it wasn't obvious like.
Yeah, it wasn't directed towards kids as sugar. It was an adult Iron Man food that bodybuilders and fit people should take.
Kind of like our version of Wheaties maybe then, because.
Was Wheaties bad?
I'd assume it is. I never.
Is it covered in sugar? This stuff is covered in sugar.
I don't think it is. I think Wheaties is like a healthy. Well, yeah, maybe like a Cheerio kind of vibe.
And then the thing too, I would have cereal, but I would cover if I ever had like cornflakes or something like plain cornflakes. Yeah. You're having milk on it, so you're having like the lactose, the sugar, the bad fat.
Yeah.
And then I'm putting my own sugar on it anyway.
You got to.
So I'm like, you might as well just give me the good stuff.
So you might like that just really cancels out the whole comparison to a box of cereal to candy bar, because you have the equal macros, but then you're adding another 200 plus calories from sugar, fat, carbs to that cereal.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
So let's
you're not measuring it at all either.
No, I do. I was whatever it took.
Well, a candy bar it's gone. Unless you're gonna have 2 or 3.
True.
The bowl as a kid, you're probably gonna fill the whole bowl up. And
that's a good point, because a Snickers bar or something, you only have one bar generally. Cereal, I would always have two bowls, and 2 biggest bowls I could possibly fit in the thing.
I know my son.
I had cereal 2 nights ago. That was the biggest bowls I could possibly fit in.
Yeah, that's something people don't really realize is the amount of sugar is in a candy bar and cereal. It's which one's worse, and you look at the back and realize that the cereal's worse. You'll probably be like, oh.
I was going to say, we're definitely leaning towards the cereal being worse, aren't we?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. We do not measure our foods, and nor do our kids. Like my son, he just turned 10. Since he's been 6 years old, I've had him measuring his cereal in the morning.
I have, yeah.
So I'll say, look at the back of it. What does the macro say? What does it say for serving? So he knows, okay, this is a cup and a half. So he'll measure it out, and he'll ask for more. And if I'll let him have more. He's a kid, but I want him to know that this is a serving. That's a serving.
That's cool, because you're setting up for success.
Yeah, because what adults do that?
Because when he's 20, 25, 30, if he gets overweight, he understands that it's on him.
Yeah.
And why, right?
Yeah.
It's not just suddenly he's 25 and overweight. Yeah. He's going to understand that, hey, I know this. I know the consequences of this, but I'm choosing it this way. Yep. Plus, you're going to be his doorstep kicking his butt.
Precisely. You learned this. 20 years ago, you learned this. What are you doing?
So talk to me about, so a child wakes up, empty stomach, and how much sugar are we talking about? How many calories are we talking about?
Man.
Let's go with Frosty Flakes or Cocoa Pebbles or something.
Typically, if you look at the macros, if I'm thinking the macros of what most kids have, the average cereal is about maybe like 200 calories, 230 calories. Milk's around 190. So most kids are going to have about 500 calories, like kids our age, between like maybe 8 to 10, are going to have 2 servings, and 2 of their version of servings, 2 bowls. They're going to probably have about 500 calories of sugar in the morning.
So how many tablespoons of sugar do you think is in that?
Well, let's keep this in mind. We're having over about 20 teaspoons of sugar.
20 teaspoons on a like 8 to 10-year-old kid,
and
right?
that's first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning on an empty stomach, getting a tablespoon 20 times and dumping that into your mouth is what you're saying.
5 days a week, maybe weekends too.
I would say 7 days a week, if not after school.
And then,
that's without juice or drinking milk
that's a whole different.
That's literally just cereal, 1 or 2 bowls, right?
You think about the juice they have too. It'd probably be more like maybe 20, 30 teaspoons when you add the apple juice to orange juice to it, the corn syrup filled juices they have. And no, most kids are gonna have more than 1 serving too of juice. They'll have maybe 6 of juice. Yeah.
Because we've talked about this before. The average, my daughter is 8. The average 8-year-old consumes her body weight in sugar per year.
Right.
That's nuts.
I wonder if that's
I think she weighs 30 to 35 pounds.
Yeah, I wonder if that study went up since COVID.
I'm sure it's got worse.
I don't want to think about that, but it's
that's so you're talking like 30 pound bag of sugar consumed, just like literally picking up this big bag and pouring it down your throat.
And the kids love it.
It's crazy.
You tell a kid that, they're like, cool.
So what happens to a child who has sugar first thing in the morning? What is that doing for the day?
I actually have about 4 clients that I train and their kids because they're overweight. Their parents have me helping with their workout regimen because it's so sad. My son has PE twice a week. I didn't know that was even the case anymore until I talked to his teachers. So he has PE twice a week.
And was it more or less before?
Usually, well, when when I was in school, I assume both of us, we had PE every day, I thought.
No, I just had
I thought as a young age, like, first grade through kindergarten through at least maybe like middle school, it'd be every day. But I know when I was high school, you can choose not to do PE or whatnot. But yeah, he has PE twice a week. So the rest of the week he's in school, he's not doing anything active a lot.
Okay.
So he has breakfast in the morning, he has his snack time, and then he has his lunch time, and then he has after school activity snack day or time. So he's eating, snacking, doing PE twice a week. So I was kind of mind blown from just knowing that alone.
Even him eating good is still it's still not balanced. Yeah. It's gonna be hard to balance.
Yeah. So for me knowing that, I make him healthy snack, and healthy snack for after school. That way he has no reason to. And then if he wants to, deviate from what he's supposed to do, he'll ask me, and I'll say that's fine. Because he's a kid still. But just the fact that they have them eating and grazing all the time, not being active, I didn't even know that was the case. And that's kind of a reason why I have, back to my clients that I have, because I guess these kids are constantly eating sugar and sugar and sugar. And like adults, you can become insulin resistant to where your body's no longer using that sugar for fuel when it's storing that sugar. So kids start packing it on. 1 out of 3 kids by the age of 20 are going to have diabetes today. So it's going to be worse in 20 years time. Yeah. And school's not helping at all. Nor is it's not school's job necessarily, but
nobody's helping it at all.
But parents, it starts with breakfast, I'd say. We can at least maybe start with that, to where people are actually being aware and knowing that, hey, first thing in the morning, you guys are giving your kids healthy juice, but looking at the juice, it's 28 grams of sugar. In this orange juice, it's corn syrup, it's corn sugar, it's concentrate, it's processed, there's no nutrients in it, it's heated, so all the nutrients, it's just fried, you're giving it to your kids. It's not a big deal, but then when you add that times 2, because they have 2 cups of it every single day of the week, and then you look at the milk's got 12 grams of sugar, you're doing that twice a day. Cereal's got 10 grams of sugar twice, so you have like 80 grams of sugar you're giving your kid every single morning, and then they go to lunch, and they have school lunch.
You know what I just thought about is, it's hard to say don't eat that when the parent is probably sitting there next to them eating the same cereal.
Yeah,
I never think about that, because you and I
we don't count.
We're so rare.
Yeah, we don't count.
And we don't eat breakfast, or we do, it would be steak or something like you don't eat for breakfast. Yeah.
And our kids are okay with that though, because they're used to us.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. But I never thought about it. It's the fact that most adults are overweight.
They're not aware.
And they stick their head in the sand and they don't know why they're overweight. But here they are eating the cereal with their child. And how are you supposed to break that, right?
You got a point there, yeah.
So I don't want to sound like a dick here, but I was at Starbucks the other day, and there was a kid who's our names got called at the same time. We both got up to get our coffee, and we both went to reach for it. And he's probably a 12-year-old kid. Yeah. He's obese, super unhealthy. And I reach for a black coffee. Yeah. He reaches for a Frappuccino.
Of course.
And I was like, it just summed up everything right there and then. I was like, this is the future. Yeah. This is the future for America.
And who taught him that? Probably his
parents. And his mom's sitting there and she's overweight.
There you go. Yeah.
And I was like, this one decision at the start of your day has dictated basically your entire life. Right. The outcome of your health, your life, everything to do with your mental state, everything to do with it. Yeah. Here I'm at 40s making this black coffee. Do I want a black coffee? Hell no. Yeah. I want that Frappuccino too, but you got to learn to have some discipline and be able to make that right decision.
Keyword, discipline, yeah.
And it was like, I was like 5 times this kid's age, but the decisions that he's being taught and the bad habits he's developed from watching, it was kind of like a really bad wake-up call for me.
Yeah, that could be your kid if you.
So if you have sugar in the morning and you have a bunch of it, what's going to happen to you? Going to be hyperactive?
Yeah, and my son knows that word, hyperactive. He's like, Dad, I want to be hyperactive today. What should I have? And people say, "Oh, your kid's got ADHD. You can't focus." Like,
what's your thoughts on that?
What is your kid consuming? And
does that actually exist to the point that people say it does, or is it more diet?
Yeah, that's the thing about you mentioned, like, usually your kids aren't by themselves. They're with their parents. Their parents are pouring the cereal, giving the juice. They're eating the same thing. So and a lot of the kids they follow by example, lead by example. So
and why wouldn't they?
That's the thing.
Because you respect your parents. Your parents know everything.
They're your first teachers. My mom used to eat this all the time, and so we ate together. This is what we do, this and that. And then, is your mom out of shape? Yeah. You're out of shape? Yeah. Okay. Well, that might be what the leading factor is. But when it comes to hyperactive, we know what sugar makes you do. It makes you, for kids in general, they already naturally have high energy levels.
Yeah, it's so hyperactive.
The metabolism's already high, and everything is really, really high and active. They're ready to go. So when you give them more sugar, they're off the wall, and then they crash. But it also can make them, hyperactive to where they get really emotional, they get very angry, they get very aggressive, they get very passive. So, and all that's been studied regarding what it does to their mental health when you give them pure sugar. Now, if you're one of those people who give your kids fresh squeezed orange juice, I'm not talking about that at all, because then you're giving your kids all the actual nutrients and it's raw, it's fresh. But when you're cutting time and buying the frozen cans of juice, and you're having to add water to it, and processed foods, in other words, those are things that's going to cause that insulin spike and hyperactive spike to where they're having kids off the wall. And if that's something that you got all you can afford and it's convenient, it's on the go, then you might want to just backtrack and then do some healthy options like oatmeal. My son's not a big fan of oatmeal at all. He's not a big fan of yogurt at all. But you can find ones that he likes or she likes. You can also explain to them, hey, this is your first meal. The next meal you can have what you want. Compromise.
Okay, that's
it's like we talked before in our last video we did, when we just finding that balance and having that time where you have a leisure day of food and then you have your business. So teaching your kids these things will also maybe encourage you to do the same thing, because like I said, my clients who have their kids that are overweight, they're overweight themselves, but they maybe realize that, hey, my kid might not outlive me, so let me get myself in shape and maybe have them get in shape, and that might encourage me to be in shape. Or either way, be a team effort. But I think our kids are at the age to where they know, and they see us as well, to where they need to understand balance. They see us, we have our ice cream days or whatnot, but they also see us eating healthy, working out.
And that's that leading by example, right? And being a good role model.
Exactly.
Because you can only say so much. If you're my parent and you're telling me certain things, I'm only going to believe what I see.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to believe a little bit to what you tell me, but if you're telling me one thing and you're doing another, eventually I'm going to stop believing.
Kids aren't
right.
Dumb. Kids are very smart. They might be quiet, but they're listening, they're looking, they're watching.
They're always watching.
They're
always
watching more than speaking. They're just letting all of it soak in.
And then I feel like too, you're not really not creating any discipline. You're not creating any good habits. If anything, like what is it? The dopamine, the rush from sugar, is the same as cocaine.
Yep, dopamine spike.
So you're basically, in a way, you're setting your kids up for like addiction. I don't mean to drugs or anything, but you're not giving that strong will set to be able to say no, or to be able to make that other decision, or to get that balance. You kind of know what I'm touching on there.
Yeah, I guess you're getting at. Yeah, that's the thing too. Like because you have those spikes of dopamine, and it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, because when you have you think you're going to be getting ice cream today, and your dopamine level goes up. Okay, I'm getting ice cream today, and then ice cream's closed, or they don't have your flavor. It goes down. You go, you're upset, and you're getting that way with food. It's like an addiction. Like, I'm going to score today. I'm going to get some cocaine. Oh, my dealer's out. Oh, I'm pissed off now. It's like, that's not healthy. You have mental health that's being affected then. So it's, if we can have it to where when you have like those refeed days, or like when your kid has like cereal, make it to where it's not like a reward, make it to where it's more of like a balance, if that makes sense. Okay, you can have oatmeal today, cereal next day. Oatmeal today, cereal next day. That way they're not having to have. I like that. That way they can kind of get in their head at an early age structure. Like I said, we're the first parents. There's not anyone's job to teach kids structure or balance. And a lot of parents themselves never had structure or balance, so they're they got no tools. And that's why and there's nothing. They're not judging anybody at all, but we're trying to give as educators, give people free tips, free advice.
Yeah, this is no judgment. This is like stuff which is literally going on each and every day. We're trying to add any type of value to help that.
Yeah, like I said, we don't count. We had the opportunity to kind of have that discipline at an early age, and turn that same role into parenting, and we do that with our kids. But a lot of people don't really had that. They never had that example or discipline or whatnot. My parents are military too, so I always had that growing up regarding just structure. But that's the thing too. Like if you can compromise with your kids, and then they will hold you accountable. okay, mom and dad, you guys are eating cereal every day. I'm gonna have oatmeal today and then cereal the next day. Why can't you guys follow it?
I like that.
Like
straight away, that's good for everybody,
they're
right?
Going to, yeah, and that will, in the long run, it's going to help them out too, because the kids want to see their parents, is they live healthy as long as possible. They want to, like you said, you want to walk your daughter down the aisle. Kids want to have their parents around as long as possible. They don't want to, but it's they're going to follow what their parents do no matter what.
I like that, and then we can touch on the fact you don't actually even need to have breakfast, and nor do your kids. Yeah, that's saying what's the most important meal of the day. It's the first, no, what is that saying? It's like the most important meal of the day is the meal you have. Yeah. Meaning it doesn't matter if it's at 10 o'clock in the morning or 4 p.m. that night. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And I'm not saying to fast your children, but I'm saying if they miss breakfast, it's not going to kill them. If they're not hungry, look at it this way. Okay, you got Cocoa Pebbles or you got no food. Yeah. What do you think is better for you?
Exactly. Yeah.
No food. Yeah. Next meal, you got McDonald's or you got no food. Yeah. No food.
Yeah. And ask the kid that. Like, say, hey, are you hungry? Are you hungry, Jonathan or Timmy? Yeah, I'm hungry, Mom. Okay, do you want Brussels sprouts or do you want nothing? Oh, I'm fine.
And my daughter's always hungry when there's good stuff in the cupboard. Always hungry when there's good cereal in the cupboard. Yeah. There's oatmeal or something. She's like, oh, I'm okay. Yeah. Always.
Yeah. The key word.
And I would have done the same thing.
Yeah. The key word about you said the most important meal of the day. Now, you need to figure out what's an important meal for them to have when it's the first meal of the day. If not, when you have that meal, make it an important meal. How is cereal an important meal? Like they're not telling you they're telling you breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but they're not saying what to have for breakfast. They are with the marketing, but you have the knowledge yourself to actually choose, okay, what's the most important meal if it's going to be breakfast for my child, for myself. And if not, when should I have that meal and what's the most important? So you want to make that first meal, because this is one key thing that is the case, is whenever you have that first meal, it needs to be the most important meal. That's going to be the main thing breaking your fast. Yeah. So you're breaking your fast with sugar, which is going to make your body go into a fat storage mode and make your body go up and down and crash. Or you're going to have something that's going to have healthy fats, healthy proteins, and maybe balanced carbs and balanced sugars to where your body's actually getting everything it needs for fuel and building and metabolism. So that's just on a different note regarding important. You said most important.
Yeah. Just to finish up on though, give me some examples of some good breakfasts for a child.
For a child, yeah. Most kids, don't have enough fiber in their diet because a lot of it's sugar-based. So if they have no issues with oatmeal, maybe have them do some sprouted steel-cut oats. You can even do overnight oats, if you guys know about that. It's convenient because most parents are on the go. They don't have time to do this and that, and I understand that. You can always do overnight oats. If you guys don't know about that, look it up. You're just literally preparing your oats before you go to bed.
But even quick oats is going to be better than most of the cereals, right?
Something that's going to be whole food based, or at least of that sort, which is why I say like oatmeal. Even though oatmeal is kind of processed to an extent if you do the quick oats, but it's still better than sugary.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Because you don't want to just go from like Fruit Pebbles and Cocoa Puffs to like steel cut oats. Kids are going to be like, what the heck is this crap? And they're going to throw it back at you. So any kind of oatmeal, whether it be like microwave oatmeal, you can do that. And instead of having actual white sugar, maybe do some cane sugar, maybe do honey. I think honey's a better idea, whole food based. Honey and oatmeal in the morning, microwave for a minute, take it out, boom. And kids love honey because it's like candy for them. That's a good one to do. And then yogurt.
You're okay with strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, things like that.
And it's
bananas.
Yeah, you can put all that into their fruit. Some kids don't like certain bananas or certain fruits, certain vegetables. Figure out what they like and have that for them to have. Most people consider fruit nature's candy. If kids don't really know about all these different fruits, all these different processed candies, they'll consider fruit to be their candy of choice. Yeah. So my son, all he has is blueberries and raspberries and grapes and oranges and apples. He's not a fan of apples at all, but he needs the fiber, so I give him that. But his breakfast, usually what he has is oatmeal with honey and fruit. He'll have his yogurt. That way he has his protein. Most kids don't need a lot of protein because they're already very, very anabolic as kids. Levels are high in hormones, but protein for their muscle building. You have their carbs that are going to be slow processed, so they're not spiking blood sugar at all, and they have their fruit, so you're going to have their sugar and energy still, and they have that enjoyable food. And then the fats, they usually get that from the yogurt, or if they like eggs. My son loves eggs, by the way.
Well, that's what I was going to touch on. I feel like eggs is another great example.
And my son makes his own eggs. He's making eggs since he's 8 years old. He cracks it in the pan. He likes to scramble it. And he has his one egg, and he's good. So
perfect.
That's the thing. It's like you're teaching if you can
set up to succeed.
Yeah, and I say what's the most important macro in the morning? He knows. Oh, eggs. I say why? Because fats. Why is it fats for? It's good for your brain. Like, smart man.
Done.
It's done deal. So it's kids love being taught by their first teachers. parents. They love it. You know, they love you guys.
I'm sure he's seen you cook a million eggs before.
Yeah, and he loves how I cook my eggs, but I told him, you gotta make your own, buddy. Yeah, that way he learns how to do his own thing. But yeah, his is usually going to be eggs and oatmeal. Very easy to make, you know, like a 5-minute meal. Or when or if we get some balance, he can have his cereal, but he'll have his cereal and he'll have his eggs still too. And I always say, make sure you have your fats and proteins first. Why? Because that's going to prevent your body from storing fat, you know. So he knows all those things, and it's not something he's against or hates. That's one thing too. You don't want to have your kids dreading eating breakfast. No. That. You want, like I said, find things that they enjoy.
Yeah, it's trial and error, right?
Yeah, that's the thing about it.
Yeah, it's not like my way or the highway. Yeah. It's give and take.
This isn't like a diet plan for your kids.
I like negotiating one day on, one day off, stuff like fair, that. Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
It's good for the mental health. They know they can learn.
Yeah, if they're having juice, you're maybe making your own juice opposed to buying it.
Find the balance. It'll help you out too in the long run as a parent if you're not doing that already.
Yeah. So just kind of summarize. If you feed your kids sugar, you feed kids cereal, you might as well feed them candy in the breakfast, right?
Sadly, truth.
If your kids are hyper, they're not listening, they're all over the place. Look at what you're feeding them.
What are you feeding your kids?
And don't breakfast is the most important meal of the day. No, that's BS. It's not actually true.
Right.
Everyone's fine without breakfast. We feed and fast for the last 100,000 generations. You're going to be fine.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Yep.